This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granic Allen. Iran finds itself at a critical and precarious juncture. Since late December 2025, widespread demonstrations sparked by economic collapse and soaring inflation have evolved into one of the most intense waves of anti-government protest in the Islamic Republic since 1979. Thousands of Iranians have taken to the streets across all provinces demanding political reform and an end to the clerical regime. In response, security forces have cracked down with brutal force, imposing a near total internet blackout and deploying lethal measures that rights groups describe as unprecedented in this scale. Reports vary widely because, again, it's hard to get information, but from in terms of casualties, but from thousands confirmed by activist networks to claims that suggestions even tens of thousands have been killed to hundreds of thousands injured, highlighting both the tragedy and the difficulty of getting reliable information out of the country under regime censorship and digital isolation. The situation has drawn international attention and condemnation. The United Nations Security Council has held emergency discussions, and human rights bodies have called for urgent action and accountability amid mounting evidence of unlawful killings, mass arrests, and potential death sentences for detainees. Iranian authorities frame their response as necessary to maintain security while blaming external forces such as the United States and Israel for fomenting unrest, a narrative Tehran uses to potentially deflect responsibility for domestic hardship and dissent. Meanwhile, voices within and outside Iran continue to debate the efficacy and moral implications of international intervention, sanctions, and diplomatic pressure as options to support democratic Iranians without exacerbating suffering. It's a big topic, but to unpack these issues surrounding Iran's fight for democracy, I'm joined today by Shahram Golestaneh, president of the Iran Democratic Association, and Sarah Teich, senior fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Sarah and Shahram, thank you so much for joining me today. I know we've had you on in the last year, and wow, how things have changed in recent weeks. So why don't we start with you, Shahram? Could you explain the current balance of power in Iran between the regime, civil society, and the opposition movements? How fragile are things right now?
First, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for being on your show again. The situation is extremely fragile. The Iranian regime cannot and will not be in the same position as it was actually a month ago. The situation between the regime and the Iranian society has been at odds for the past 40 some years. But nevertheless, in the past 6 years, I would say since 2019, we have had at least since 2017, 4 major uprisings against the regime. The latest one that we are talking about now shows basically that the population is fed up with the regime and its slogans and the so-called reformists versus hardliners. I mean, the people have gone past that. They want a regime change indigenously by the Iranian people, not by outside forces, but nevertheless, they want the world to hear their voices, that they want a regime change. They want a democratic republic for their future, not going back to any type of dictatorship, and definitely to get rid of the mullahs and the clerical regime once for all. And I hope that this time the world hears their voices. So the situation is fragile, although on the surface, it may appear that the regime has basically have had, by massacring the people, an upper hand, but it can never go back to the situation before, and it only added to the fuel of dissatisfaction of the people from the regime and the moment that they can overthrow this regime.
And Sarah, as we've mentioned, there have been other uprisings before. What makes this one so different? And why should the international community take it seriously, especially as a potential turning point in Iran's history?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a question to me.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
So, I mean, as Shahram mentioned, the scale, of course, is unprecedented, though, of course, it is hard to get accurate figures out of the country right now. But there are also a couple of key additional factors that make this unique. And one that I think it's important to talk about is that this round of protests and crackdown really underscores growing technological and operational cooperation between various authoritarian states.
Okay,
So,
Sarah, we're going to cut to commercial, but I want you to expand on that right when we come back.
absolutely.